Hey everyone, and welcome to Heading North. My name's Nick,
And I'm Megan.
and you might remember her from episode number 23, traveling with your partner. I reason why I asked Megan, my beautiful girlfriend, to come back is simply because she has a toddler of her own, and this episode is going to be very heavily revolving around hiking with your children, especially 4 and under.
Yeah, so the reason that we really wanted to get into this is I have been um, hiking with my kiddo since he was born. I grew up in Minnesota. I've been on the trail pretty much my entire life, especially up in northern Minnesota on the North Shore. And this was something that was really important for me growing up and has transferred into my adulthood as far as now seeking my partner, my hiking buddy. And so I wanted to make sure that this was a big part of my child's life. And the way that I have known to do that is just to like introduce your kids to things that you're into, and then hopefully they'll be into the things that you're into.
No, exactly. And even if they're not necessarily into the things you are, like you need to saturate them in different experiences. I think your parents had a very similar philosophy that my dad did, where, you don't necessarily have to do the sport again, but we've got to try different things. And even if you don't like it, follow through, carry on, and, get through a season. For instance, with this, there's a lot of great options for hiking where you can bring kids along, especially when they're under 4 and they're not overly heavy, for the next bit we're going to talk about. But you can bring them along and get them experiencing the outdoors without necessarily having them have to have that fitness level of the outdoors or any of those other things that might defer them from enjoying a hike.
And I'm sure some of your listeners can relate to like a time that they were younger, that their parents were like, hey, we're going camping and you don't have a choice. You're coming with us. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
our family trip. And so, as much as we can make hiking pleasant for our children, that's what I've always hoped for Jet, is that like, as long as we're hiking, it's something that we love. I want to make sure that it's something that he enjoys. And he truly, to this point, I mean, we're like 4 years of life here, but he does enjoy it most of the time.
Most of the time. We actually brought him for his first overnight camping trip last
Last
summer
summer,
as
yeah.
well. For those of you who have listened to much earlier episodes, I've done a lot of truck camping over the past couple of years with my pickup truck, and Meg has come with me as well. And Jet actually joined us. We went to, I think it was a Cascade State Park that we were
No,
at?
it was Temperance.
Temperance River State Park up the North Shore of Minnesota here. And we got him out. He enjoyed camping. One of the biggest tips that I could have when you're bringing a toddler camping is don't necessarily give them a headlamp, because anytime they're scared, they're going to have that headlamp on all night when you're sitting by the campfire. And anytime they're scared, they're going to look at you just like this. For those of
It's right in your eyes.
Yes, it's right in your eyes. And for those of you who are listening, they literally look right at you because they want to know that you know what's going on and you hear it too. And you're blinded and then have no night vision to see what that noise was. So I think that would be my tip as far as bringing a kid first time on camping. But as far as hiking is concerned, having a backpack or anything along those lines is really a great option. I mean,
Yeah.
shoot, we did a 10-mile hike, and having a pack to be
Yes.
able to carry Jet along was extremely easy, because those moments where he got tired between snacks and stuff like that, we were able to kind of carry him along.
Yeah, and so I've been hiking with Jet since he was born. The first carrier that I ever had was a front carrier. It was a Tula. It was given to me as a gift, so it was one of the older models that actually couldn't flip to the back. And so I had him on the front of me. If you're like me, my kid was attached to me pretty much the whole beginning of his life, all the time, always just like right here. And I loved my Tula because I could still run around the house and do things. We went through the stage of like him sleeping in the carrier all the time, like couldn't even put him down for a nap. So he came on a lot of hikes with me in the Tula carrier, and I love that thing. It's very sturdy. It was very comfortable. It wasn't just like a wrap or anything. Then he got a little too big for the Tula, and I needed something that he could also ride in the back of me as of. So a lot of the Tulas now that you'll get, you can flip them either way. So pretty much most of them are made so that you can, there's like a little button on it, and then you can ride them on the back or the front. So if you're looking at carriers with a tiny human, maybe you're pregnant right now, or like you have little ones and you're wanting to start bringing them with you, I would suggest, I loved my Tula, and just making sure that you purchase one that can go either direction, because then it'll last you a little bit longer, because these things are not cheap. And then, so because I upgraded and I was needing something a little bigger, I had a Kelty pack that was actually, again, gifted to me. They're not, like, they're very expensive. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this out for a while. Like, this is what we need. We need something that you can go on. All of my friends and family have hiked with Kelty packs. So if you're not familiar with the Kelty pack, it's actually a frame. And so the straps are like a backpacking backpack. So you've got your waist pack. What I found with the model I had was the waist part was a little bit too thin, and it didn't give me the back support I needed. And I actually suffered an injury with the amount that I was hiking with my son and the weight that he was. So Kelty packs are made up to 40 pounds. And my son was in like the 30-pound range when he was 2 and 3 when we were using it. They're great. Like, I actually really love Kelty packs. I wish that it would have worked for us because it has this huge frame. So if you've done a lot of backpacking and things, it's a true, like, sturdy frame to it, and some of them even have a platform that
So
they can stand on.
It's similar to like one of the normal Kelty external frame backpacks where it doesn't have those internal bindings. So most of the newer hiking pack that most hikers use, except for those die-hard through hikers who are really going for the lightweight or ultralight packing, it is going to be that external frame. So that's definitely something to think about, because even without a child's weight on there, 25 pounds on an external frame, if not, and that's me going very light with my backpacking, up to 50 pounds on an external frame can be very hazardous to your back and to your hips. To speak heavily, I had a Kelty external frame hiking backpack. Even when I was doing Philmont Scout Reservation, I had to make sure that I would reorganize and take my pack off on a regular basis to make sure that I didn't sustain any level of injuries or sores on my side. So that's definitely something, that's definitely a helpful tip.
And so, unlike when you have a backpack like that, right, when you were hiking with that, you could like swing it around your body, right? You can't swing that when there's a kid in it. So I would actually put him in the backpack, put the backpack in the back of my SUV, and then like attach him to me while he was like sitting like this kind of height in the SUV. And it was fine. I will say, I loved my Kelty as far as like it had a big sun cover on it. It worked really great for a little one who like still needed support to sit. There is really clear guidelines on those of how big or how small, because if they're too little, you need to make sure you have the right straps and things, because they're up high in the air. He loved it because he was up high in the air. His head was above mine, so he could see everything that was going on. He had his awesome sunshade. So I can't speak too poorly of Kelties. I will say, if you are a dad or a bonus dad or extra parent or whatever, you have kids who you're wanting to bring with you hiking, Kelties are made for dudes. And so they're like, that's a great tool for you to have as a dad, as a Kelty pack. So what I found a little bit later on, I was really struggling with my Kelty, and I was on a hike with my older brother and my sister-in-law. And my niece is a few years older than my son and heavier than my son. And she was in this, like, it looks like the Tula carrier, one of these baby carriers, but it was on my sister-in-law's back. And I was like, what? What is going on? I thought they only went, up to 30, 40 pounds, whatever. How is this working? And she was like, no, it's called a Lily. So it's made by Lily Baby. And the backpack actually goes up to 60 pounds. So this is what I currently have. I'm not sponsored by them. I wish they would sponsor me because I could sell so many of these for them. So Lily Baby, it's called Carry On Airflow, and it holds kids up to 60 pounds. So right now, my 4-year-old is just over 42 pounds. And so he can ride in this backpack when we're doing longer hikes. And so this came in really handy for us last fall. Nick and I did this hike called Bean and Bear Lake. And it's been on my bucket list of hikes for years, but it is a longer hike. It's about a 10, 12-mile hike. The colors there are just gorgeous in the fall. And so it just turned out that we had Jet, and I was like, let's just do it. Let's take him. Let's go. And so I was super grateful to have that backpack because he'd been hiking with me 2 years prior to that. He'd had a ton of experience. It was pretty much what we did every single day during the pandemic because I needed to leave this house. And so we were outside on the trail constantly. So he had been doing, 3, 4, 5 miles a day at that point. So when we did the really long hike, it was still, he never would have made the 10, 12 miles. And so it was really nice to have that backpack. And we still use it now. It's definitely something that, like, now it's our tool of, like, we're bringing this in case you get hurt.
Yes, we set that expectation, as you will read in many toddler training books. You set the expectation ahead of time. Hey, we're only bringing this in case we absolutely need it. But, it is nice to have along just to know that if we have a meltdown or just someone who's overtired for the day or any of, the litany of things that it could be, we're able to carry him along and keep a reasonable pace where we're not out on the trail for way too long, especially when we go hiking after work.
Yes.
This is, I think, the most useful thing for any of you who do work a 9 to 5 or anything similar to that, because you do have to race slightly against time when it comes to sunset, unless you are comfortable hiking at night. So having that backpack and having that security and sense of comfort, knowing that you can, if you need to catch up or pick up some pace, you do have that bag available.
I would say I love it. It was always like my extra workout, right? Because when you're hiking with a toddler or a little one, you're kind of going at their pace and you're wanting them to explore and do their thing. But then when you get, you're like, okay, we've done 2 miles and it's taken us 40 minutes. Like, now you're gonna go in the backpack and I'm gonna walk. And they love to ride in there most of the time. And then it's just great because you have like that, it's like a double workout for you. You've got an extra little bit of weight on you. You're supported well if you're using the right kind of carrier, and can go.
Yep, and I really, as a detriment to what you just said, I think that entire Bean and Bear hike, you kept fighting me to take the backpack, thinking that I was too beat up. And at that point, I was training for my 5Ks and really working hard to get to a fitness level that I hadn't been before. So it worked out great for me to be able to carry a 30-pound child around and just have that extra weight as I'm trying to traverse up large hills and other things like that. For those of you who know how I like to work when it comes to these episodes, I do have a couple price points for you guys, just so that you're aware of what you're looking at. Prices have dramatically gone down probably from when Megan received any of her packs. When you're looking at, so first we had talked about the Tula brand carriers. And you're looking at any of the Linen Explorer baby carriers you can find on Baby Tula or as well as Amazon. Baby Tula is selling them brand new for $179. This is going to be more of that 3-in-1 style where you can flip around to either side. And then on Amazon, they have the Tula baby carrier, which is that front-facing baby carrier. And that one is $99.99. And if you look at the hip band for any of these items, you will notice that they have a very perfect hip width as well as a positioning where it will help, especially a female's back, to be able to carry a child comfortably, which is something that I really enjoy about this brand. They also have a lot of really neat designs. So if you get a chance, look on Baby Tula. Tush Baby also has a couple options, and so does Nikki's Diapers. Now, when we're looking at the Lily Baby, which is my personal favorite, what we're talking about is on Airflow, and that's $149.99 on the Lily Baby website. And that's on the Lily Baby website. And then there are some other options. You have the complete all season, which looks like it is going to be for smaller children. And that one is running at $99.99 on Amazon. And then Tush Baby also has a hip holster style where you can kind of let them lean on it for smaller children at $85. Now, Kelty, as we're talking about prices, is going to be much less comfortable from what we've found in our experience. And those are running between $149 on sale, but are generally running around $249. You can find those at Dick's. So if it's something you need quick, you can run to Dick's and grab that. But if you do have some time, I would highly recommend any of these other options. Now, as far as hiking with children are concerned, you guys have heard me talk heavily over this year about the essential 10 for hiking. These are things like bug spray, compass, anything like that. Well, you also need to double those up and make sure that you have those available for your children because they need those essentials as well. So when you are packing for yourself, realize water consumption is a huge thing for children as well as yourself. So you need to make sure that you are conscious of what your child needs as well. So if you need your 2 liters of water, then add on a liter for your child or a liter and a half, anything that will make sure that your child is also just as comfortable and safe as you are on the trail. And then when you're looking at things like a first aid kit, you want to make sure that you have things that are going to be for a more sensitive individual. So not necessarily moleskin or any of those things that do cause pain and can add to irritation, down the road that we are able to handle as adults, but make sure you have items in your first aid kit that are going to be essential for your children. Then you're also going to need to make sure that you pack enough items like snacks and meals for your trek.
Yeah, so I just want to say, like, if you are wanting to do this on your own, maybe you're single parenting or maybe your partner isn't a big hiker. Nick and I shared during our traveling with your partner episode, like, there are things that we both don't always enjoy. So if you're the outdoorsy person, like, take your kids with you, expose them to it. It might not be something that they get to do all the time because it might not be a family thing that you do. So I'm just going to encourage you to, like, you can do this by yourself. There's tools out there for you to be able to. I did this on my own basically till I met Nick.
Up until last summer. So when Jet just turned 4, so up until
3.5 years,
you were trekking with a child on your own, quite successfully, might I add. So it absolutely can be done on your own. And I know even just hanging out with Jet myself on smaller hikes and stuff like that, if you get them into it, they're going to be there with you and they're going to enjoy it just as much as you are. So get out and have some fun.
I think it's important to make sure, just like we have said in the past, to, like, go with the flow. I will say you never know what you're going to get with your kiddos. And this happened to me this week. Like, Jet and I went on a hike on our own, and the whole way, the first 2 miles, all he did was complain the whole time. And he loves to hike. He loves to be outside. I mean, my kid goes to an outdoor preschool. So you just never know what you're going to get with them. And then some days it's like they're 2 miles ahead of you on the trail. And you're like, I guess I have to keep up with you now. So sometimes you need to keep them going, give them some encouragement. And this is something we ran into when we did probably our longest hike we've done with Jet, which is why we keep bringing this up, just to, like, give you some things to have when you do those longer hikes. So one thing that we found is making sure that you're fueled, like Nick has talked about before, making sure everybody's fueled up, ready to go before you go on your hike, and then bring some things with you. So I will say our favorite tool when we did our Bean and Bear hike were gummy bears.
Oh, yes.
Both for my son and for Nick. So we'd get to, like, a little ways in, and I'd notice everybody was, like, dragging and be like, hey, we're gonna take a break, everybody's gonna have some water, and I have gummy bears. Or, like, let's get a little bit further and I have a treat for you. Which is total bribery, and to each his own. But I will say, like, you need that energy, you need that fuel. Sometimes it's like, if you're doing that long of a hike, who cares? Like, have the gummy bear.
And your body depletes, and any through hiker will tell you, your body depletes an immense amount of calories, especially through carbohydrates on your hike. What a lot of people don't realize is the reason why people who walk sometimes have better fitness than people who run, obviously not necessarily cardio fitness, but general fitness, is because your body does burn more when you're walking, let alone trekking up rocky areas or uneven terrain. So to be able to have those small replenishments of especially carbohydrates but other calories will allow you as well as your child to go. And the thing is a child's body can hold a lot less carbs than our body can, though not necessarily burn as much as fast, but the need for them to intake those carbohydrates tends to be a little bit more than what would be for an average adult.
It's no different than, like, training for us, right? Like, if we're working up to getting to do longer hikes and pushing ourselves to continue to do more things, your kids need to do that too. They need to build those muscles, and it takes that repetitiveness of doing things. Like, I'm sure Nick has said this many times, like, you don't just go out on the trail and away you go. Like, there's preparation, you need to know where you're going, how far is the trail, what's the terrain like, what kind of shoes do you need, things like that. So I think it's important to, like, know that our kids are not quite as capable. They're capable of amazing things, just not quite as capable as we are, and so we have to train them. And as far as the fuel goes and things, there's days where my child will eat like a bird and he eats like 3 things. And I'm like, let's go hiking. I'm like, this was a terrible idea because you haven't eaten and you're crabby and you're tired and now nobody's having a good time.
Hmm.
So making sure that you have those things. I always keep snacks and stuff in the car too. And with that being said, making sure that your kids are properly clothed. So you need to plan for the weather, plan for your hike, all those things. I'm sure if you have really little ones, hopefully you've heard this, but make sure that your babies have one extra layer than you do. That I mentioned on the Kelty Pack, and actually our Tula, we had a sunshade on both things, and the backpack we currently have has one too. We don't use it anymore.
No, we don't.
But making sure that you have like your kids are all the way sunscreened. Like they don't handle sunburn as well. The bug bites, they'll be scratching those bug bites all night long. Man, do we know that right now?
Yes. Yep.
So just making sure that they're properly clothed just like you are, but I just have to like remind people about like when we're dressing our very little ones, like if you're using the front carrier with your tiny 1-2-year-old, like or under 1 or under, that they have that extra layer. Like granted you have that body heat, but they need the sun layer, the warmth. If you're in your shorts and t-shirt, like I would put a sun shirt, a long sleeve sun shirt on them. It's less sunscreen you have to put on them.
Hmm.
Make sure that when you put them in that their legs aren't hanging out and you didn't put sunscreen on that one little section of those chunky little legs. That's so cute. So just, yeah, I think that we want to make sure that they have the correct layers and things at that younger age.
Well, and the reality of the matter is, children don't have the tools that we have to understand this information or learn this information. I personally learned a lot of my information through scouting and years of experience hiking with my father, just as you did with your brothers and your parents and getting out in nature. So we need to teach these kids these things. We know as adults that it's easier to take layers off than it is to put them on. So we need to promote these things as well as plan for these things out on the trail. And that could be even down to teaching a kid to put bug spray on or having that extra layer, or even though it's not raining right now, let's put a rain jacket on because it might later, or it might be moist or anything along those lines. So really it's extremely important for us to purvey along this information because kids aren't going to learn this from anywhere else besides us until they get older and can access things like Google. Hopefully not till they're much older because they're too busy outside traveling and hiking. Now, one of the other big things that children aren't necessarily going to understand is the leave no trace principles. This is something that I have preached many times. I have an entire episode on leave no trace. Well, kids aren't going to know that if there is a muddy area, we have rain boots on, that's fine, we can walk through it. They're going to walk around, or they're going to start picking plants, leaves, or anything like that. They might leave litter or anything like that. Jet luckily likes to find litter and pick it up. Maybe not necessarily luckily, but we'll say luckily in the argument of leave no trace. But that is a huge thing that on top of the appropriate food, snacks, and other things that you can teach your children is to leave no trace on the trail because let's face it, the world as it stands, we are losing our natural resources and our trails are getting destroyed, whether it be by natural disaster or just natural erosion and or the over amount of foot traffic that goes over these trails. So we really need to make sure these kids understand not to go off trail, not to pick things. If they want a stick, it has to be a dead stick on the trail because let's face it, kids love sticks, whether it's their shooter gun or if it's a sword or just a walking stick, they're going to pick it up. So teaching them to not pick up or break off live branches, stuff like that is going to be extremely important. So if we live the leave no trace policy as avid hikers and outdoors people, then we need to teach that to our children as well because there's no way that those things are going to carry on to the next generation without doing that.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So one other thing I thought of was recently, Nick, Jet, they were out on a walk and one of Jet's sandals blew out and they happened to make an adventure to go get him a new pair of Tevas with the really nice soles. And these are shoes that we both hike in too. So during the summer, if we're doing like a 1-2 mile hike with Jet, I have my Chacos that I've had for years and I love them. And I know Nick has his Tevas and he loves them. And so now Jet has a pair of them. And so we'll wear our hiking sandals. And it's one of my favorite things to help like encourage him because he'll ask and be like, well, Nick, what shoes are you wearing?
Well,
Can I wear mine? Or like, hey buddy, you need to put a hat on, it's sunny out. Well, I don't want to. And I'm like, well, Nick's gonna wear his North Face hat, so you should wear yours too. And then he'll be like, okay.
I specifically got him a North Face hat because we had been having the argument with some of the more kids oriented brands of hats where he didn't want to wear them. So when I picked up mine on North Face, we also were able to get a children's version for Jet. So it's nice to be able to have those matching attires. And it's also fun because guess what? We now know that we're teaching them about the same gear that we use.
Yes.
So on top of just having that extra fun of them matching you and matching their parents, matching their extra parent, anything along those lines, you also have the ability to teach these kids what is the appropriate gear and what's going to be the stuff that lasts and stuff like that. So if you buy the higher end stuff, I know cost effectively it might not be as cheap as going as somewhere like Children's Place or Walmart or Target or any of those places, but it's good to get them exposure to that type of gear and that type of equipment because they're going to need to know those things when they get older.
And it's hard because it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to wear this for one season, but some of that good gear is so worth it. Like we just got Jet a big sun hat, and the one he currently has, I got on Amazon. And like the lower portion always pops down. So every picture I have of him in it, he's got this like lower part on his eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, let's just get you a hat that actually works, buddy. Yeah. So this being said too, so with having a partner there, I know I talked a lot about traveling and doing a lot of hiking on the trail, both on my own, but then and Nick and I shared about some of our longer through hikes. So this is something we enjoy doing together. And I think it's important that when you have a partner that you're doing those trade-offs. It's really great to have that when you are doing the longer ones where it's like, hey, can we both handle this backpack? Hey, can we both handle the baby carrier or the toddler carrier? So that partway through the trail, it's like my shoulders are getting sweaty or this is bothering me. Can we trade off? And then making sure that you have those things packed and the gear and everything. So one last tip I have for all of you in your hiking is really just nurturing your child's creativity and enjoying your time on the trail together. And so we've been doing a lot of like color exploration, like, hey, what colors do you see while we're outside, especially in the springtime now? What shapes do you see? Teaching them about different leaves and things. So right now, there's a lot of poison ivy where we live, and Jet now knows, thanks to Nick, that the low red leaves are things that we don't want to touch, and he pretty much just avoids all of them now, which is great because we don't have to worry about him being in poison ivy.
Yes, no fights over calamine lotion yet. Even trees that are red leaves we stay away from now, which is, in all honesty, is fine. Even if they have those grandeur ideas based off of the hints we give them and the information we give them, it's great to saturate them with that. I think we were on a hike recently where I was over explaining something with Jet, and I've learned over the years that sometimes too much information is still okay simply because they are taking it in. They might not get all of it, but they will use those key topics that you drive within those conversations to move forward. Where I told Jet, if it has 3 leaves, a lot of times it'll be shiny and it's red, we stay away from it. What does Jet take away from that? If it's red, stay away.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that he didn't get all the information, he now understands that there is something like poison ivy, and we'll get into poison oak and sumac because we do have those in Minnesota, at a later time. But he was able to take enough of that away, of that over information away, to be able to use that on the trail to help protect him and guide him as he's going forward.
And now it gives them something to watch for. So we talk about different kinds of bark. He likes, he's always been a stick collector. He loves to throw rocks, things like that. So I think like figure out what your kid likes. They'll show you on the trail like what they're kind of into. He loves bridges. It's always something that will keep us going and be like, hey, I think there's a bridge up there.
Or a stump.
Or a stump. He loves stumps.
He does love stumps.
And then last is some storytelling. So if you do like books and things at home with your kids, I will say Nick is much better at this than I am.
I do voices.
He has a bigger imagination than I do. So some of those longer hikes, we'll make up stories and we'll have Jet start the story, or we'll kind of all mishmash a story together, or we make Nick tell the stories now. But it's kind of fun to have that to keep you going through those longer hikes and things. I remember when I did my long backpacking trip through the Rockies, we used to do different like brain puzzles or riddles and things like that, and it's something just to like keep your mind off of like one foot in front of the other. So anything that you can come up with, everything feels like forever to your kids, even if it's a half an hour. So if you give them something to do and play, always coming up with fun stuff to play with, like how let's race to here, how what kind of creatures do you think live in here, how many shapes can you find, how many colors can you find, let's make up a story about what's going on here or with all of us. It'll keep your kids playing and going while they're on the trail.
Yes, and that's information that you can take as an adult as well. You had the experience, Meg, with the Rockies. I had the experience on the Appalachian Trail. One foot in front of the other does not get you through everything. And even if you aren't a toddler, some things feel like they take forever. And especially if you're in an area where depth perception or relative size doesn't allow you to understand how much space you're gaining, you need things to keep your mind busy. And I'm not a big proponent of music or anything like that. So as an adult, you can even make a story up in your own head. No one's going to know but you, so it's not that weird unless you think it's weird. So have some fun with it, and have some fun with your kids too, because, I mean, any story, even if you act like a wee little leprechaun, your kids will love, and you might have some fun with as well. Your girlfriend will absolutely enjoy it and probably have nightmares about that leprechaun voice you made, but it's a lot of fun to have and to do while you're on the trail. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. Where can we find you on social media, Megan?
You can find me on Instagram, Megan S. Brass.
And I'm your boy, Nick. You can find me on Linktree. Just go to linktr.ee/Disney Adams. You can find everything I'm working on, as well as links to the social media for Heading North and a lot more. And if you liked anything you heard on this episode, you can go to headingnorthpodcast.com. Music in this episode is brought to you by Asylum Music and Media Works. And if you want to find Heading North on social media, just search Heading North Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. That's right, we're on TikTok. And as well as YouTube, where you're probably watching this right now. You can go to, you can also search Heading North Pod on Twitter, because someone already had the name, so I had to shorten it down. And if you guys want to support what it is that we do here at Heading North Podcast and help us grow the show and make it better for you guys, like having these videos available now on Spotify as well as YouTube and Facebook, then go to patreon.com/Heading North Podcast. Or you can just go to Heading North Podcast/shop and pick up one of our awesome show merchandises to really get something out of that. There's a lot of really cool lines, as well as hats, stickers. We also have the Camp H&P project going on, which all proceeds go to Rewild, which is a group working to re-biodiversify the world. So it's a lot of really cool stuff that you can pick up on our shop as well to help support the show. And as always, to help the show grow, make sure you leave a review and like the episode or the show on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.